In today's farm report, colostrum, which is the first milk produced right after a cow gives birth, is important for healthy calf development, and as Jim Sulfur with the University of Minnesota Extension explains, there are several tips that you can do to ensure that those calves get that highly nutritious milk.
One of the keys to really healthy calves when they're young is really good colostrum management. For folks that might not be familiar with the dairy industry or that term, colostrum is really the first milk that a cow produces after calving. And why it's so key is it's very high in antibodies. And cattle are born, basically calves are born with no antibodies. Cows are not able to pass those antibodies that are circulating in their bloodstream across the placenta wall and into the calf. So a calf really essentially has no immunity to any disease. And so the way they get that immunity in early life is through these antibodies that are fed through the colostrum in the very first early period of life. As a matter of fact, the first couple of hours. And one of the keys, of course, is to provide that colostrum in a very clean environment in a clean way. So here's some ideas of really ways to think about how to make sure that the colostrum is clean and that you're getting high quality colostrum to those calves so that they really have the best immune system. And of course, that'll result in much healthier calves. Make sure you try and remove that calf from the dam as soon as possible after birth. Many people listening may wonder why we do that, but part of the reason is we really want to get that calf out of there because calves have a real sucking instinct, and they suck on cows' hair, and they searching around for the udders. So really, from a standpoint of a healthy calf, we're really better off removing that calf from the mother as soon as possible. Make sure you clean and disinfect the udder before you milk that first colostrum. And then make sure you try not to pull colostrum from different animals. The kind of rule holds true, one cow, one calf rule. And the biggest issue that Sandra Godden has found out at the University of Minnesota is that it's really the equipment where we get most of the bacterial contamination. And so make all that harvesting equipment, whether it's going into a bucket and then you're going it into a bottle or a feeder to feed the calves, make sure that equipment is very clean and very disinfected between every animal, because that's the area where she found out that we maybe have a weak link on some of our farms. And then if you're going to store that colostrum to feed it later or freeze it, make sure that's done as soon as possible, just like any good food safety rule for humans. Try to get it cooled down as fast as possible because that really will minimize bacteria growth. This has been Jim Sulfur with the University of Minnesota Extension in St. Cloud.
There will be a gathering for interested individuals in starting an FFA alumni chapter in Royalton on Saturday, November 14th at 11 a.m. The meeting will be held at the Egg Shop on the east side of the Royalton High School. There will be a hot dog lunch and snacks available. Anyone interested in supporting the egg education and FFA programs at Royalton High School are encouraged to attend. You do not have to be a member of FFA to belong to the alumni chapter. If you have any questions, contact Mr. Squira at the Royalton High School. There will be a Dairy Expo being held in St. Cloud early next month. Jim Sulfur with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office shares some highlights that attendees can expect.
I'd just encourage all dairy producers that are listening, and I guess if you're not a dairy producer, you're welcome to attend, or any agribusiness people to attend the Dairy Expo that's coming up in December. It's December 2nd and 3rd, our main days for programs. And if you haven't attended for a few years, I know we've got a lot of dairy producers that do attend, but there's sure a lot of other ones that don't attend. It's really an excellent opportunity for the money. I'm just amazed at how low we can keep the price on this event, and that's really underwritten by all the sponsors. I think it's a good chance to come and visit with all the sponsors and see a lot of the new equipment that they have too. But I'll kind of run through the program. I think we've got a good program, similar to other years. In the morning on the first day, we've got Don DeVelder and Cheryl Meschke. They're the CEOs of AMPI, kind of talking where the upper Midwest dairy industry is heading, and they'll focus a little bit on Minnesota, and I think that's really good. You're seeing milk production kind of coming up in this whole upper Midwest region, and what's their plans for reinvesting in plants? Where do they think this milk is going to be going? I'm sure they'll talk a little bit about exports. Jim Mulhorn, who I think he's a National Milk Producer Federation president. What's being done on a national level to growing the Minnesota dairy industry, so he's going to talk about FARM, immigration trade, and the Child Nutrition Act, and kind of from a national perspective, where is milk going and where are we going to go with this milk, and what's the prospect for growing milk production and maintaining really good milk prices in the future. And then we're going to have a panel, so you'll be able to ask questions to them. Another really exciting session that I think we've got is the farm that was featured on the TV show The Undercover Boss, and he was the farm that was featured where they went out to and visited with the herdsman and spent some time with the herdsman. I would assume most listeners are probably familiar with The Undercover Boss, and he's going to talk about how reluctant he kind of was to allow a TV and a lot of TV cameras to come onto his farm and film, and how that turned out. But in hindsight, I think he thought it was really a good thing for the dairy industry overall to show what we do on our farms. So I think those are some really good topics. We're going to have panels focusing on employee management, automatic calf feeders, reproduction. We're going to also have some panels that are going to focus on transitioning the farm, and we're bringing in a producer from Canada that does a lot of farm transition and focus on that. So I think it's a really good program. You'll see a lot of advertisements. Go to Minnesota Milk's website and you can search for Dairy Expo and it'll come up. But I would sure encourage everyone to at least think about it on their calendar. And again, it's December 2nd and 3rd right here in St. Cloud. So it's really local. It's really close for most listeners. This has been Jim Selfer with the University of Minnesota Extension in St. Cloud.